everyone. Welcome back to the Black Tower Podcast, a Wheel of Time podcast. I am Andrew.
I am Daniel.
And I am on probation. My name is Josh. Thank you.
There it is.
Did not expect that. Oh.
I was not ready.
I wasn't ready either.
I apologize. Was that too much? I never know.
No, that was great. I liked it. I just was not ready.
It was a pleasant surprise. A happy little act.
Good.
Indeed. Hey, Bobby.
He was in the Air Force too.
Yes, he was.
Indeed.
Just like 2 out of 3 people in this podcast now. So, those of you that are a part of the Discord, you have probably seen Josh puttering around in the Discord, though you probably don't know him as Josh. Probably know him as Aoshun. Is that how you say it?
Yeah. Aoshun.
Aoshun. There you go. With his lovely picture of him sipping on some rums and cokes, as he says.
It happens frequently.
I mean, it should.
It's happening now, if I'm being honest.
All right, too much.
Shit!
Dial it back here, sir. This is a family-friendly fucking podcast.
Yes, of course. I'll put on my professional voice.
He's gone professional.
I'm both
going
terrified and
professional.
aroused.
Thank you for joining us for tonight's podcast, where we discuss the finer points of Crown of Swords, your favorite book. And we know it's your favorite in the series. We know. We all know.
I mean, isn't every book your favorite in the series?
Precisely. Because there is no other series, let's be honest.
Basically.
This is the only book series that actually exists. The others are just cheap rip-offs and knockoffs. Like, even the Epic of Gilgamesh is a rip-off of the Wheel of Time.
That's right. They serve
The Illian, the Odyssey, they're actually about Rand.
That's right. The pattern weaves the heroes in and out as it deems necessary.
Too much.
Okay.
Now, like, every time you turn around, like, so the Wheel of Time, then too much.
Damn it. I feel like this isn't going well.
What's with this California
this is
moderation
great.
here? I would like to have 15 bullets. Too much.
Too many. You cannot have...
You get 4 at most.
I mean, properly aimed. You know,
I didn't say we weren't going to let you do damage. I just said 15 was too much.
Okay, good. We'll go with that.
When rounds
right,
are in
guys.
short supply.
Today we are talking about A Crown of Swords. Josh, would you like to let people know?
Well, I would like to let people know that if they're listening to this episode, there will be no concessions made, okay? There will be no holding back. We will be discussing the details. And if you listen to this episode and you haven't read A Crown of Swords, there's a very good chance you're in for some spoilers. And I know we're past the statute of limitations on spoilers, given that this book was released in 96, I think.
Correct.
However, there are spoilers. So for any of you first-time readers, hop into the book, finish the book, and then come back and
you have been warned.
Because, oh, that's good.
I like how it started off it started like a very Mel Gibson-esque Braveheart kind of spoiler warning.
Oh, yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Well, we have to go dark.
And it is the Black Tower.
It is. Things are not so happy and sunshiny here.
Correct.
We're all mad here.
Most of us are already half gone. So
Are you in? No, I'm actually out.
Yes. I hate that question.
So before we get into the
So,
before we
Crown
get
of
into the book,
Swords.
because I said I was going to do this when we were just talking about everything prior to recording the episode. So for those of you that don't do not want to go the extra mile, which of course isn't required. I'm not trying to pressure anybody into anything, but on Patreon we do release we do release our pre-recording discussions beforehand, and there was this beautiful moment, which if you are a Patreon at the dedicated tier higher, you'll hear, where we're sitting there talking about this this really big kind of not kind of sexual topic. It was hilarious. And at the exact time that we started talking about this, get a Twitter notification that we've been followed by this new account. You may have seen them around really, really recently. They just joined in June of 2019, but it's at WT Recipes, and their Twitter name is The Plowman's Blade.
Bow, chick, bow,
Mm.
bow.
And for those of you that are even vaguely familiar,
Shout out.
yeah, shout out to you, Plowman's Blade. But that is a wonderful theme that goes on with just about every single inn or tavern or whatever have you. We're actually their third follower, so you're welcome, Plowman's Blade. But also thank you, because that's the kind of humor I need more of.
Oh yeah,
It makes my heart.
It's true.
good.
I'm the 7th follower.
you know, I'm certainly not saying that that I didn't totally notice that theme for all of the inns in Wheel of Time, but I'm also going to tell you that I did not make the connection that all of them can be made into sexual innuendos, like literally every single one, until this moment.
There's also a kind of a scary correlation, because there's a couple of the inns that they stay in that are kind of shady, and I can't think of any off the top of my head, but the names were always, and I know authors do this to try and set the tone, but when you like brush it through the sexual filter, I guess you could say, it makes it more scary on some levels.
Oh yeah. Four Kings. Oh god. I don't want to stay in a town called Four Kings. Can we,
No,
Matt? We should,
sounds
Matt.
horrible.
We should definitely keep going. I don't care about sleeping under a hedge, so that I don't have to stay in this Four Kings bullshit.
You're going to need a
You
shot
guys,
of
can we just-
penicillin after that one.
Can we please just keep walking, please?
I also love how Matt is the one who's just like, no, we're staying.
Well, he's at that point in time, he was well under the influence of the dagger, so he probably didn't know up from down.
I mean, that's very accurate.
I digress, but whatever. Crown of
I
Swords.
still love. Let's just talk about for ever so slightly a moment. Can we just talk about the fact that I kind of love the fact that Matt starts out as normal and then just loses lots of memories and then just gains way too much back?
Yes.
He never is normal. Like, literally from leaving the Two Rivers, he's never normal again.
No.
He literally just has either way too few or way too many memories. I love it. It's great.
It's one of the things that I love most about Matt's character. He's like, in some ways, some of the most, they all have this dichotomy of none of us want to be here. Matt, Rand, and
Right.
none of us want to be here. Perrin's like, I don't want to be the Lord of the Two Rivers. I don't want to be, special or important. I just want to go home. I want to work in my forge. I want to call it a day. And then Rand's the same way, but he gets all emo about it pretty quick. And then Matt is like the only one who, not only did he not have a choice but to come, but like he had the added insult of having pieces of his life stolen from him. And he was like, well, now I have to see this through because I have to get those parts of me back.
Right?
I love it. Sorry, tangent. It happens.
Anyway, All right, cool.
Swords.
So Crown of Swords.
Indubitably.
I love I love 2 out of the 3 main stories in this one.
Oh yeah.
You know, I guess because so like the 3 main I guess story lines that you have in here is the conflict in Illian, which is great, love it, and then you've got the quest for the Bowl of the Winds, which also wonderful. Love that story arc. That's the story arc that's got my favorite scene in this book. And then the Broken Tower, that just feels like when the White Tower, you've got the separatists, I guess you could say, but they just kind of didn't do a lot for me story wise. I mean, it helped progress the story, but that
Yeah,
wasn't
they do a lot
the story
more
I
in the
was
next
invested
couple
in.
books.
Right.
Yeah. This is really set up for what they actually do in A Path of Daggers and mostly Winter's Heart.
Right.
Yeah. No, it's true. But we do get the whole prologue here where we go back to Dumai's Wells. So we get
Which is
a call back
wonderful.
to the greatest thing ever.
Agreed.
Interestingly enough, I do like the fun fact that I did not know as I was reading it, which is that A Crown of Swords has the shortest span of time of any of the books. It's literally only 11 days long, which I would not have thought reading it that
Huh.
it was that short. Then again, I will also say that I give way too much time for things to happen in these books as well. I 100% thought that like from beginning to end it was years, and the answer is it's like 2 or 3. It's
Yeah.
not very long at all. And so
That's
the fact that I didn't notice that this was 11 days is not terribly surprising, though it is interesting.
I don't even think I read the book in 11 days.
Right?
So, fun fact that I just remembered about A Crown of Swords is this is the first time in the 6 books prior to this, and this being the 7th, that Min's last name is ever given. This is the book that tells us her last name is Farshaw.
It's true.
Before this,
Yeah,
nobody knew her. We never knew her last
Wow.
name. But in this book, in chapter 33, titled "A Bath," is when she's having the conversation with Rand about how she's like, "I was a virgin before you, and I think that your fight with Perrin was bullshit and fake, but I'm not sure." And all this other, and who's Cad Swain, and tells him about the vision, how she saw Rand's face and another man's face, but she couldn't make out either face, but she knew one was Rand. And then they seem to touch and merge, and then one of them dies and one doesn't.
Which, I mean, I'm not going to give any spoilers away, but for everybody who's finished the series, like, absolute brilliant foretelling and foreshadowing. Like, I love Min as a character for this very reason.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it's nice because at that scene, is it helps Rand reinforce the feeling, and he very much needs it at this point, that he's maybe not as mad yet as he thinks he is, because the viewing that Min has makes him feel like, okay, I'm not just crazy. There is actually something to this with Luce there, and actually being something in my head. And to me,
Yes.
Which, of course, is amazing because it's also totally wrong.
Right?
Again, we're not actually going to tell you, who it is or whatever. We'll get to that when we get to that. But I love how it totally comforts Rand in this idea that he's not crazy. And in the end, that's not what it is at all. And you're like, oh, buddy, I'm so glad that you got comfort from that, because, like, you could not be more incorrect.
Yeah. Yeah.
No,
that,
so we start off with a little
go ahead.
Dumai's Wells recap, and then we get into a lot of stuff. I think the main brunt of this this story is actually Min and her relationship with Rand, as well as Elayne, Nynaeve, Avienda, and Birgitta, actually going ahead and being in Abu Dar and finding the Bowl of the Winds.
Right, because at this point in time, the Dark One is global warming at this point,
Yep.
and everybody's dying of heat.
I wonder if that was an allegory to something.
Well, global warming / global cooling has been a thing for years, so maybe he was tying into that a bit.
I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Yeah. Well, I think the coolest thing about, for me anyway, about the quest to find the Bowl of the Winds, and if I'm jumping the gun here, please let me know, but Moghedien v. Nynaeve, like that whole interaction, I love that.
Yeah.
It illustrates one of the things that I love most about the series, which is, those who are really, really strong in the power, like Nynaeve, don't necessarily have ultimate control of a situation. Just because you have the ability to channel a whole lot doesn't mean you necessarily have control of the situation. And Moghedien is a really great constant reminder of that. Because don't they say several times how she's not particularly talented in her ability to channel?
Yes, of the Forsaken, she is definitely the... I don't think she's actually the lowest on the totem pole as far as her ability to channel, but she's very close.
Right. And so
she absolutely sits in the shadows and waits for people to make mistakes and then just lashes out with the, not insignificant amount of the power that she can use comparative to everyone else.
Right.
But comparative to the rest of the Forsaken.
She is still very smart, very capable, and I really love that sort of David and Goliath-esque conflict where Goliath is the good guy in this case, but they do it. He does it in a really great way. I really love how Robert Jordan does that.
Yep,
and that's what eventually helps Nynaeve
get over her block.
Break her block. Yeah, she's on a boat, and Moghedien strikes. And as a matter of fact,
with balefire. Because she doesn't give a shit anymore.
She's like, I want this bitch dead. I don't even want her dead. Yep. I want her gone.
I want her dead years ago.
I want her death to be dead. Yes. I mean, I think Moghedien serves a really interesting tool for the way I look at it throughout the series that we see here. For the majority of the series, the Forsaken are these kind of, or the Chosen, whichever way you want to look at them, are these kind of mystical, legendary beings that look human, but are never really made to seem human.
Right.
Until Moghedien. Moghedien is the first one that, for me, really drives home how human, in fact, the Forsaken still are. They're not these legendary people. They've just, by virtue of who their allegiance is to, have lived so long that they have a wider breadth of knowledge. But even the Forsaken admit that they've lived so long, they can't maintain all of their knowledge.
Right.
Their hard drive is getting full and deleting the old pictures.
Right.
But Moghedien is that first one that we actually get to see. We always see the Forsaken as these kind of greedy, do anything to survive. Very rarely do we see, until they're facing Rand for the most part, the Forsaken actually fearful. But we see Moghedien through the Adam that they first use on her, and then the one that Elayne creates that doesn't need the actual link between bracelet and collar. We actually get to see the tangible fear that Moghedien has, and it's even heightened with Moghedien because she's the spider, right?
Right.
Moghedien's the spider. Yep. She weaves the web. She hides in the background. And by the time you know you're in her trap, she's already got you. And for the first time, probably ever for her, it's not another Forsaken that's got her back against the corner. It's these people that she knows want to kill her, and there, as far as she can tell, there is literally no escape.
I just like
So
to
it does this
offer,
really good thing of humanizing the Forsaken
yes,
for us, so that it kind of brings them down, but makes them more. I think it helps us understand the Forsaken a lot more.
Well, and I love the way that Jordan does that, especially because there have been, two others that we really do start to see the humanization of. Because, of course, Asmodean ends up being a servant to Rand in so many
right,
ways, with, Lanfear's help. But then he's gone relatively quickly, and we don't actually see that much of their interaction between the two of them. We get a
right.
few snippets, we get a few scenes, but overall there's not really a whole lot of information. The information that happens in between the two of them is mostly off screen.
Right.
And Asmodean teaches Rand a number of things, and he is made a lot better due to those things, but we don't actually see a lot of those happen. And then, of course, Lanfear, we also see a little bit of humanization of, given the fact that she is so uh, sort of susceptible to emotions. And she goes ahead and goes into these rages and whatnot out of
Right.
jealousy, which is not really something that you would necessarily attribute to something like the boogeyman, which is, of course, what the Forsaken are used as by all of these people in this time. Basically, they tell their children to do what they're supposed to, or the Forsaken will come and get you. So they're just like horror story villains. And then, of course, finally, we actually get to see Moghedien get captured, and the way that she gets captured, and the idam that is connected to her gives us all of these different scenes where not only are we seeing her reactions, not only are we hearing her speak, and not only are we having conversations between her and main characters, but we literally hear Jordan describe her feelings that the main character can sense through the IDOM link, which actually gives us so much more of a view into the character of Moghedien and what she is like, not even just on a surface level, but on this deep emotional level, which, again, going back to what you said, just humanizes her to this, to basically to the nth degree, because we end up really finding out that she is capable of being terrified and capable of being haughty and capable of being all of these different things that, again, you wouldn't necessarily associate with someone who is the quintessential villain in
Yeah.
these snippet
Well,
stories.
and that's a really great point too, because that one of the things that helps with the protagonists is they go, hey, then they become aware. We become aware of that as the reader, but the characters in the story also become aware of that, and they go, hey, we can do this. We can beat these guys. These are just people. They have the same feelings as us. It's just a matter of getting inside their head. And when they have the opportunity to do that, they go, hey, we can do this. And that I think that's a really big turning point for some of the main characters in the book as well. I can't remember if Nynaeve, if that's one of the things. I know just by sheer brutal will, she goes toe to toe with Moghedien, and Moghedien underestimates her, and that's, I think, the source
Every
of the
time.
rage when it came to bale firing her boat. But I think that's one of the things that helped Nynaeve as well, to go, hey, what? You're just a person, and I've been bullying people my entire life. Step into this octagon, hon. I'll show you what's what. And I really like that aspect.
Yeah, and And I do actually really appreciate that it starts with Rand, because, of course, given that he is so integral to actually
Right.
defeating the Shadow, I mean, like, literally without that character, there is no winning. Um, him being the first person to actually see the Forsaken as something that's beatable, as something that's usable, as something that's human, is so important to the beginning of his trajectory from, leaving the Two Rivers to finding out he can channel to starting to hear Luz Theron to all the way up to the last battle. That I really appreciate all of the work that was put into the books to prepare the characters that we like and know and are expecting great things of, for them to actually achieve those goals, because there is so much foundation that's necessary in these books. And I mean, we were talking earlier about the fact that with the Broken Tower, like, nothing actually really happens in this book, but it's all foundation for what actually happens later and what characters
Yeah.
are feeling and what their motivations are going forward. And that's one of the things that made me fall in love with this series, is that Jordan is not hesitant to do that. He will give you chapters and chapters and chapters of things that don't seem important until you read 3
Exactly.
books later and realize that he was setting you up for this moment, and you're like, holy shit.
I mean, to be fair, one of the most heinous things that we see does happen in this book between Matt and Tylin.
Oh, yes.
Yep.
So for those of you that know Matt as well as we do, the lovable character that he is, the entire series up to now, he's been a player, essentially. Wouldn't say like womanizer, because I don't think he really, I mean, well, no, he does feign like borderline love, but I don't think he actually ever says he loves anybody until much later. But,
well, they even say,
he would kind of be seen as
I was just going to say, they even say numerous times, like in his thoughts, he's like, I'd much rather be in a tavern with a girl on my lap right now. That's really where I'd rather be. And it's just because he doesn't want to be tied down. He's just like you were saying, he's a player. He's like, I don't want to be here. I want to be drunk.
Yeah, I want to be drunk, playing some dice, playing some cards, making some coin, and dwaddling a pretty girl on my knee. And that's what Matt has come to find as a joyous pastime, which I think a fair portion of that, because Matt was always kind of for that to an extent at the beginning of the book. He had just never been outside of Edmund's Field. But now that he's got all these, for him, new memories that are all these past journals, and so now much of his mind is tied up with this militaristic lifestyle. That kind of mentality is very stereotypically militaristic. That's a very stereotypical thing that members of the U.S. military, like, every time a naval ship makes port somewhere and they get shore leave, it's like, all right, let's go see how many girls we can get, or whatever the case. Maybe the women are like, let's go see how many guys I can get. Whatever you want to do, I don't really care. That's your life, and my only advice is use a condom, because there's a lot of things you can catch out there that you can't get rid of. Some of them last for 18 years.
Whatever you enjoy, just enjoy it.
Yeah, but the thing that I hate the most about this is and I think it's far less of a part of the community that's read the books that believes it now. But I remember some of the first times when I was reading through this and I was talking to a couple friends that read it, they were like, oh, well, yeah, but Matt's kind of deserved it for many books because he's always treated women this way, and now he's finally doing that. I'm like, but Matt never forced anyone into do it. He tried to convince them, he tried to swoon them, and in the end, they made the decision to lay with him. Versus we see Queen Tylin literally raping Matt.
Yeah. Which, I mean, like, on some level, it is interesting the way that Jordan writes it, because I have always felt that this is actually weirdly something that Matt wants. He just doesn't want it in this way. Because he would absolutely be fine with going ahead and sleeping with Tylin. He has no problem. He calls her an attractive woman. He absolutely, ogles her like at a couple of points right at the beginning. It's just when he's not doing the chasing that it's really a problem. And of course, again, I am very, very clearly not saying that if you want it but you say no, that the other person should just read your intentions, not your voice. But at the same time,
Yeah, I mean,
it's also an interesting like turn on its head that of course Matt would be so happy with this if he was the one pursuing it. He's just not the one pursuing it, and that's where the problem is.
yeah, I mean, to be perfectly honest, I know there's people that feel this way, and there's people that are going to try to say it. If you buy into this third wave feminist kind of style of, well, Matt's just being a misogynist, he's got to have things the male way, or he doesn't want it at all, you can fuck right off. You can come and fight me about it. All right? I'm not going to sugarcoat it. You can fuck right off because you're cancer on society. Because it doesn't matter what kind of person you are, why you believe what you believe. At the end of the day, the literal description is Tylin traps Matt and forces him into bed in chapter 29 of A Crown of Swords.
Yep.
There is no,
at a knife point, I believe.
Yes.
yeah, like
Yes, literally at knife point. She has a dagger to his neck.
Yeah.
It is 100%. He is on his tiptoes with a knife to his chin.
It even draws
like
blood.
Literally being tiptoed back to the bed as she cuts off portions of his clothes.
Yes.
It's 100% rapey. It's 100%
No.
rapey.
It's not rapey. It's
Sorry,
rape.
It's 100% rape. Sorry, I did not mean to throw in the Y there. You are correct. It is 100% rape.
And let's take this moment to look at how fucked up Nynaeve and Elayne are about this, because they laugh at it. And they're like, well, that's what you deserve.
Yeah, no, it's totally true.
It's like, really, Matt has done nothing but save your asses time and time and time again, and you're always pretentious assholes to him. He literally risked his life to come into the Stone of Tyr to rescue your helpless asses from a prison cell. And even then, you couldn't even fucking say thank you. And now that he is being raped and accosted and molested by a queen who just happens to keep you on her good side and do whatever she can for you and give Nynaeve a really nice necklace, you think it's funny that she's raping a guy that is childhood friend of Elayne's love interest, her, of Rand, and that Nynaeve has known all her life. Yeah, he's mischievous, but I think there's even points where Nynaeve is like, yeah, Matt would never do anything, but all they see is the Matt that loves to go and gamble, the Matt that loves to go and drink, and so by association, he must be this dirty, despicable womanizer that they never show any kind of gratitude for. Like this entire scene, for pretty much most of A Crown of Swords, is I normally am a big fan of Elayne. I like Elayne. But during this part of the series, until this kind of comes to an end later on, I hate Elayne, and I'm still not fully on board Nynaeve at this point in the series.
No, I have to agree with Nynaeve. I have always had a little bit of a problem with Nynaeve, not as a character, because again, I actually think that she's very well done as a character. I just don't like that character.
Yes.
And so I've always had a problem with Nynaeve. I mean, the fact that she is just so hypocritical all the time drives me a little bit insane in terms of the fact that, again, I really appreciate that there is a character like that, and I think that she is characterized well. But that character drives me nuts.
Well, and that's
Elayne, I actually really liked in this book, even up to this point, because to be fair, and to her credit, there are two things that Elayne does during this book that are actually really important that make me like her. And that's one, when Birgitta and Avienda actually call her out on her shit, when Birgitta goes and gets drunk with Matt and he just kind of lays out what he's done for Elayne and Nynaeve.
Oh, yeah.
She comes back and she says, Elayne, what the fuck is wrong with you? And Elayne goes, oh shit, you're right.
Yes.
I messed up.
At the same time,
and she goes to
Their entire travel to
Matt.
Abu Dar, rather, she's been trying to study the Foxhead Medallion. And because she's
Yeah.
been such an insufferable asshole to him, he's like, fuck yourself.
Right?
And she's like, I can't believe you'd be so rude, blah, blah, blah.
And he's like, I'm rude.
Yeah,
But, I mean, she is still very young and very childish in nature.
Yes.
Oh, and of course, she's been raised her entire life to be prepared to be
Oh,
queen.
and get her way, because her
And
mom
so
always did.
Yes.
Yeah. And so she absolutely has this. And again, I am not washing over that and just allowing that to be okay just because that's, you know, her history. But at the same time, I mean, like, it's very understandable and whatnot given who she is. But again, as soon as it's brought to her attention, she goes ahead and goes, you know what, I messed up. And she goes to Matt and apologizes. And it's a very heartfelt apology.
Right.
Nynaeve also ends up going, but it's not a very heartfelt apology for,
It is,
you know what?
It is for her.
It is. You're not even wrong. But like for the reader, it's very unsatisfying.
Yes.
And it's one of those things, like a lot of things, once you step back and look at the longevity of their relationship, what they've always been to each other, you know, Nynaeve, the wisdom that's always had to deal with Matt's shit.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
get it,
it's
and she's kinda
absolutely instigator and
And then
disciplinarian. That's
you
what it
add in
is all the
You add in
time.
this inherent air of arrogance, of almost superiority by being trained as Aes Sedai, and at this point raised officially / unofficially to sisterhood. That it's like, can you imagine how much that swells
Yeah.
someone's head? Like,
Oh,
Nynaeve
yeah.
has gone from I hate Aes Sedai, I'm going to learn just so I can destroy Moraine, to now I'm the best shit that's ever healed ever. And then you
Yeah.
got Elayne. She's like,
And of
well, I
course,
was already
her-
a queen, but now they're telling me I'm one of the strongest Chandlers. And Nynaeve's like, well, if I could get over my block, I'd be stronger than Egwene and blah, blah, blah. And it's like,
Right?
what? Can someone just pop
And
everybody's
of course-
ego in the fucking book series?
Nynaeve's motivation is also gone now in so many ways because Moraine is dead
Yeah.
at this point. She's gone. Nynaeve has absolutely no reason whatsoever to go ahead and want to become Aes Sedai to destroy any particular person.
Right.
Now she's just becoming Aes Sedai. Like there's no other motivation here.
Well, and at that point, she's kind of got a thing for land, right? So I always kind of figured she was.
Oh yeah.
She was becoming an Aes Sedai no longer because she wanted to destroy someone, but because now she was like,
She wanted to
I'm gonna
gain
get up
someone.
on this.
Yeah. Now,
Kind
to
of.
be fair, by chapter 37, Elayne and Matt and all them, they have talked and everything. They're still looking for the Bowl of the Winds. And she's getting on Matt's case about his relationship with Tylin. And then Matt's like, what the fuck? Like, I don't want this. She's forced me to do this. And then Elaine's like, oh,
Well, that's
yeah, sorry.
yeah.
Then he's
Yeah.
like, okay, well, you at least believe me. So do you want to study the medallion? And she's like, I can't believe you, but no, thank you. And it's like, what the fuck?
Right.
You spent
Dude, I
most
love
of the
it.
book, almost the entire book so far, wanting to study the medallion. Matt's finally like, here, you can look at it. And you're just like, oh, no. It's like you only wanted it when you couldn't have it. And now that you can have it, you don't want it. What the kind of high school stereotypical girl bullshit is this?
Well, except that,
mean, it
okay,
works out.
I appreciate what you're saying. I do. I absolutely do. But at the same time, that is actually a really nice turning point
it is.
in so many ways. Because it's not actually Elayne standing there being like, ugh, I only wanted it when I couldn't have it. And now that you're giving it to me, I don't want it. It's her actually realizing that she's been selfish.
Yeah.
True.
And when he goes ahead and offers it, she looks at him and she goes, fuck.
Yeah.
I want this so bad. It's not even like I actually only wanted this when I couldn't have it. I actually really want this right now. But you know who actually needs it more? At least right
The guy
now?
that can't defend himself
You.
against magic.
You need it.
But it works out because the very next episode is where he uses the Fox and Medallion to
Right.
drive off Gollum.
And that
And
was
then they
Yes. Which, of course, if we're being honest, there's almost no way in hell that Elayne, if she had actually been wearing it or had given it to somebody else who needed it, would have ended up finding that out about the
right.
Golem. The only person who actually ends up, it's Matt's luck and the fact that he's in hand-to-hand combat with this Golem. That's the reason
Well,
Mhm.
and
that
let's talk about
they find out.
let's talk about that for a second as well. Hand-to-hand combat with the Golem. Like, nobody else was able to do that. Like, everybody else that tried to do this was freaked out by how quickly it could move and how strangely it could contort and just like slither out of the way of everything. And then Matt comes in with his spirit and he's just like, dude, let's do this and let's fight. And keeps him on his toes.
Yeah, let's remember what a golem actually is. There were only 6 created during the war powered by Agenor.
And they scared the chosen.
Yeah. That's why they stopped at 6. Because after 6, they were like, these things are fucking terrifying. And they were designed to be assassins to kill Aes Sedai, male and female. And they look like regular people.
How ridiculous is that?
They look like ordinary people, but they're stupid strong. Oh, and by the way, they can slither and move that way because they don't have any fucking bones. Oh, and they're immune to the one power. Oh, and they can detect any kind of camera at 50 paces. And by the way,
and also, if you stab them in the face, it doesn't matter.
Oh, and they live on fresh blood.
And to make it even more terrifying, they can even sense the true power being used, or the one.
And I don't know that it was ever confirmed, but I believe the current suspicion is that even the true power would have melted off of them and just not had any effect.
Oh yeah, it's never something that we see. Like, nobody ever actually tries it, but it is implied very strongly that literally no power
and they guess
can fuck with them.
And I guess this one was even released by the other main antagonist in this story, Samael, and it was only he only released the Golem because he wanted to fuck with Rand.
Yeah, it was Samael.
Yeah.
Because Tails cared and he will send quote unquote someone.
Right.
But to make them even more terrifying, you can't just not channel around them and they'll never notice you because they can detect if you even can channel.
Yes, if you even have.
And when you do fuck up and you do channel, they can detect that shit from several miles away. It's like, it's one of those things like, it's a straight up quote out of Jurassic Park. They were so focused on if they could, they didn't think about if they should.
Yes. Good old Agenor.
The chosen find a way.
Hashtag Jeff Goldblum reference. Love it. But no, you were talking about one of the most heinous things with Tylin forcing herself on Matt. And then, the end of that story, that's in Crown of Swords, right? Am I going ahead? When they decide to leave?
That is...
And
that doesn't...
Okay, then I'm not going to go there.
Path of Dagger.
Yeah. Elayne and Nynaeve and all of them, they do make the decision to leave. And I think it's towards the end of the book that the Shan Chan do invade Ebudar. And it's the end of Crown of Swords that the Shan Chan do invade Ebudar.
And we see a lot of the ramifications of that and the actual sort of on-screen happenings in the Path of Daggers, but we hear about them actually showing up at the very end of Crown of Swords.
That's like the capstone. The big
what we see as we're leaving in Crown of Swords is the women leaving, the Golem watching them go, and Matt off looking for Olver. Right. That is sort of what we're left with at the end of A Crown of Swords. or at least at the end of that portion of A Crown of Swords.
Right.
What we're actually left with at the end of A Crown of Swords is the fight against Samael in Illian. But as far as that storyline in Abu Dar, we're left with the Shan-Chan showing up,
Right.
Matt looking around the city, and the ladies leaving with the bullet.
Yes, that's right. They find it. And
Yes,
I think it's...
yes, they do.
You know, the funny thing is, the first time I read through this, I was like, oh, sure. Matt finds the horn. Uh-huh. Sure. Okay. Oh, sure. Now Matt's there and he finds the bowl of winds. These are relics that have been missing for 1,000. And then it's like the end of the book, and I was realizing, oh, yeah, Matt has that luck thing going for him. That makes a lot of sense.
Also, interestingly enough, I don't think that Matt actually is that he it's very strongly implied that he's integral in finding the Bowl of the Winds, but as far as the Horn of Valir, he doesn't do shit.
That's true.
Like, Moraine is the one who finds the Horn of Valir with Rand's help using the Eye of the World, and then of course it's Rand who strolls into the house in Falma with Matt. let me make that clear that Matt is present. He's absolutely there. But it's really Rand who walks into that house and goes, oh, hey, look, it's a Quendiar seal. And another Quendiar seal. And the Horn of Valir. And shit, there's a Blade Master. I gotta go fight this guy.
No, that's a good point. No, at first I was thinking, oh, okay, that's just Taver and luck. Okay, cool, we'll go with that. But no, I really, as I go back through and re-experience some of these stories, I really love how they sort of weave the different people in.
Weave. Yeah. I see what you did there.
Now, something else very interesting that happens in this book, talking about like things that want to be very important later on in the series, is Elayne and Nynaeve's discovery of the kin in Abu Dar.
Yes, very much.
Which is brand new news for Elayne and Nynaeve, and this leads to one of the biggest, and I don't think the revelation is made in this book, but Elayne and Nynaeve are expressly beyond shocked to hear how old the members of the kin actually are. Because several of the kin, and Elayne and Nynaeve remark on this, that there's no way, because they are living longer than Aes Sedai.
Well, and it's always been interesting to me that I've never actually looked it up, and I think I'm actually going to do that right now. But anyway, the kinswomen are described as being older than any recorded Aes Sedai in the tower and whatnot. But this is also the book in which we meet Cadsuane.
Yes.
And she is also described as one of the oldest sisters alive. And according to this, she's almost 300 when she's introduced as a character in the story. And let me look up.
They show her. Cadsuane's like also one of these legendary characters that a lot of people just go, no, she's not a real person. She was, but she's dead, and now there's no way she's still kicking. And then she shows up one day, and everybody's like, oh, wow, hi.
Kind of. And of course, like, everybody else like looks at her and is like, what? Oh, yeah. Okay. Never mind. So Rianne is 400 when the events of the Wheel of Time are happening. And Cadsuane is 300. So, and she's not even the oldest kinswoman. Like, she is described as not even being the oldest. She's just the one that floors them originally with finding out how old she is.
Crazy.
Oh, yeah.
And that turns out to be pretty big because the kin and their more lenient standards and processes when it comes to studying different methods of Cider. They come up with all these really great weaves, all these really cool things that they can do that Aes Sedai are over there going, wait, how are you doing that? I don't even know what you're doing. And it's like...
Which of course, my favorite part of all of this is just got to be how often in the story Robert Jordan just shits on Aes Sedai, because of course they deserve it. And I'm not even saying it's wrong. I'm not even saying it's a bad thing. I actually love it because of course the amount of times that the Aes Sedai, who are just so full of themselves, say that something can't be done, that it can't be done that way, that it's been lost forever, or, this, that, and the other thing. And then, of course, literally during the course of these 14 books, and of course, we've seen it now, 8 or 9 times at least, in large cases, where they're just like, oh yeah, no, it can't be done. And then somebody does it, and they're like, bitch!
Traveling was
just so perfect because
being
again,
able
when
to
you have
open a portal and travel,
right,
that was one thing that it'd be great if we could just teleport to the tower, but we can't do that, can we? Oh yes, you can. Nice try.
Right. And then, of course, healing, stilling, and gentling, creating Tarangri Hall, healing. The way that they even do healing, not even as far as stilling and gentling is concerned, but just the general act of healing is so primitive. Versus what they did in the Age of Legends, what Nynaeve is capable of learning on her own, what these kinswomen are doing in Abu Dar. It's nuts. The amount of things that Aes Sedai just don't even pursue because they just are being told that it's impossible and telling other people that it's impossible is just so obnoxious. And it's just like a teacher. It's absolutely a college professor who just is so full of themselves and has been teaching for so long that they cannot imagine it being done any other way. And as soon as their student goes ahead and brings it up, they're like, no, stop pursuing that. It's stupid. And then, of course, they write their entire thesis on it and change the whole fabric of everything. And suddenly they just look like they have so much egg on their face. There's a beautiful example of that.
Well, there's numerous beautiful examples of that in real life. But one of them is magnetic levitation. There was a thesis written on that, on why it's impossible and why it's never going to happen. And the guy who discovered it never read the thesis and came up with it, had no idea that there was a paper written saying all the ways that it's impossible. So for Robert Jordan to tie that into the story and make that a part of this universe is just another example of how rich of a world this is that we get to experience.
Yep.
Oh yeah, it's very convincing world building to add things that we're familiar with. But speaking of learning things, how about all the bits of history we learn about the Age of Legends and maybe even prior in Chapter 25, where Mogideon is summoned back to Shao Ghul. She tries to skim there to think of her story on her way there, but as soon as she opens the gateway, she finds herself right there, and Shaidar Haran meets her because she is following him, and she notices that all of the quote-unquote fangs, the stalactites and stalagmites in the cave, seem to move for him, but everything comes down on her. She just narrowly avoids being crushed. And the Dark One's like, you taught my enemies. You done fucked up. Here's a Kortora or a mind trap. And gives it to the Murdral.
The Murdral who's a foot or two taller than any other Murdral.
And so then it goes, she basically
and laughs.
Oh, yeah.
That's the most terrifying part of Shaidar Haran to me.
Oh, yeah.
Is that all of the other Murdral are just things.
They have no
Shaidar Haran is a being. And you're just like, oh, fuck. As if Murdral weren't already scary enough as things. Now they have to, like, give it humor. Like, no.
Yes. No, that's...
Fuck you.
Oh, yeah. And then to make things even better, it like kind of time skips a bit, and Moghedien is awoken by Shadar Haran again. And there's a cell that she's been in for days with no door, and she doesn't know how he gets in and out. But she has been broken to the point where she is calling this Murdral Miakova, which is Old Tongue for one who owns me or my owner. This is Moghedien. It is literally calling now a Murdral her master, essentially, her owner.
Yeah.
And
though, of course, we all know that it is not just a Murdral, which is, of course, really interesting because every time he shows up, he only ever shows up to the Forsaken.
oh yeah,
And every single time they're like, it's fucking Murdral. And then he's like, no, I'm Shadar Haran. I'm something very different.
Yes.
And within minutes of meeting him, every single one of the Forsaken are like,
hi.
oh shit,
Hello, sir.
my bad.
well, he's got some badass quotes because doesn't he look at one of them and basically say, when I speak, you can take it as the Dark Lord speaking or the Great Lord.
Oh yeah, that's technically not until the next book, but he says that to Grendel, and it is.
Oh, yeah,
I
Grendel,
think
like,
it's the same
it is
scene that I was just
chilling.
about to reference, and that is like when he approaches a couple of the Forsaken, and they're like incensed that they're being summoned by a Murdral, a mere Murdral.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, I think it's the same scene.
Well, and of course, I also love that no Murdral in history, or at least that the Forsaken can remember, has ever been able to use the power or stop the power or anything like that. And yet, when Shadar Haran shows up, none of them can channel.
They can't even see or detect what's blocking them.
It's and not even they can't even see what's blocking them.
Yeah.
Like the source is gone.
Yeah, they can't see.
Like it's not even there's a block between them and the source, and they can see
Right, because
it
most
is
of the time
gone.
No.
when people are shielded,
And he's like,
or if they've been stilled or gentled, they talk about it as being, just over their shoulder, just out of view. Like they just can't see it. They know it's there, and it's almost taunting them, but they just can't touch it. They can't grab it. They can't see it. But when
I think they describe it as like it's almost like an after image. They know it's there. They know what it looks like. They know it should be there, but it's like the little floaters in your eye. Just when they think they see it and they try to look back at it, it disappears.
Shadar Haran is around. They're just like,
yeah, there's no I mean, they remember there being something there, but there's nothing.
It's
there.
almost like a temporary stilling or gentling.
It's terrifying. It's a
Basically.
terrifying concept.
But in the same scene where Shadar Haran is sitting there stroking Moghedien's mind trap, which she can literally feel his fingers on her brain, like it's so disturbing. He picks her up, throws her at the wall. She's waiting to hit the wall. Next thing you know, there's just the voice that says, "Open your eyes." Looks up, and bam, there's Moradin.
Ugh, Moradin.
She doesn't even know who he is, and she's just kind of like, "Who are you? What are you doing?"
I'm the
Grendel
neighbor's
might argue, and then she looks closer and sees little black specks floating across his eyes, a fair number of them. And so she's like, "No way, you can touch the true power. There's only 29 that have ever been able to do that." And that's whenever he tells her, "Oh, you've been in a vacuole, but only for 2 days."
Yeah.
A vacuole is, as she explains in her inner monologue, is a section in the pattern where time flows differently. It can be faster or slower. That for all she knew, she could have been in there for centuries. But they know they're very dangerous because sometimes they break free of the pattern, and whatever is in them is lost forever.
Right.
So at any point, she could have just disappeared.
Yep.
But Moradin does give her
Which, I mean, like, obviously, I am very glad that she doesn't, because, again, she actually does have some great scenes from here on out, now that she is Moradin's bitch.
Oh, yeah.
But,
I mean, Moradin,
like,
even
at the same time...
After this point, from this point on, I'm not sure if we've seen this book, but it's not really that big of a spoiler or anything. Moradin's colors are black and red. From this point
yes.
forward, Mogideon wears black and red.
Yep.
Another symbol of her subservience to him.
Yeah, we technically we do see that in this book, because when she shows up in Abu Dar, she's wearing black and red, and it is definitely a, like, in the book she technically doesn't say that she's serving Moradin.
But we know.
We know that she is, because of course she says her master, which we know to be Moradin, but she doesn't say it. But of course, again, it's telegraphed the whole time that we saw who she's serving.
Well, I mean, we see it.
We know who she's serving.
When she's sitting there speaking with Moradin, he now has her mind trap.
Korsuvra.
Yeah. And then she sees he has another one as well and wonders who that is, which we find out who that is in Path of Daggers. But
yes, we do.
It's one of those scenes that, you know, you see Mogideon and you're happy that she's finally caught, and then maybe to a slight degree you feel kind of bad just because of how terrified she actually is, but you remember how bad of a person she is, so you don't really. And then she's got this horrible feeling. Yeah, and then she finally gets this like ray of hope that she's going to be set free. Then she gets thrown into the worst possible fucking situation.
Yeah.
So, you know, you kind of get that ironic image of the spider being trapped in someone else's web.
Quite frankly, the worst part about it for her. Because she's like, no, I do this to other people. This is a the cruelest of ironies.
I mean, because
I love how she's absolutely like, this is absolutely terrible. Being caught in somebody else's. Wait a second,
karma, bitch. If she could break the fourth wall, she'd be like, damn it.
Well, and it's again, you know, it's RJ shitting on people, and he's really good at it. Shits on the Aes Sedai, and now he's shitting on the Forsaken. And
he is
just,
Yep.
There's even in the scene where she launches the balefire strike on Nynaeve and the sea folk ship. She's like making the mental comment that like Moradin probably wouldn't be okay with this, but whatever he doesn't know won't hurt me. And I think even for a moment at the thought of him, she feels like him rubbing the mind trap, and she just shivers and she's like, okay, let me just hurry up and blast this bitch. And I think that's part of her reasoning for wanting to go ahead and use balefire. I mean, obviously she's got plenty of rage and motivation now, because she's looking at this like, if it wasn't for this Aes Sedai bitch, I would not be stuck in any of this bullshit. I'd still be hiding in the
Actually, the best part of that scene to me is actually the fact that Moradin saves Nynaeve. Because it's actually him touching Mogideon's Korsuvra that messes with her aim.
Yes,
and she doesn't actually get all of the ship or where Nynaeve is. And so she ends up getting like through the center of the ship rather than the cabin. And if she had hit the cabin, we wouldn't be talking about Nynaeve anymore.
No.
But of course, again, it's literally that just momentary like shiver of him touching the Korsuvra that that Mogideon misses Nynaeve and saves her life.
And not only that, but that's kind of what we alluded to earlier, where Nynaeve, you know, the ship disappears. Everybody's like, what the hell happened? You know, they're drowning.
Suddenly sinking like 100 feet back upriver from where it was just sailing.
Yeah.
And they're like, what the hell is happening? And Nynaeve can't, you know, she's drowning. She can't reach out. She can't channel anything. She's like panicking. And I love how they write it. And it's just, you know,
it is such a beautiful scene. Because she is begging in her mind.
And for the first time in Nynaeve's life, she finally fully surrendered. Oh my god, it's so chilling. Oh, I love it.
You literally have to.
The next paragraph, boom, she's filled to the brim, and it's just boom. got this. And then Lan, of course, swims down and gets her, and they get to the side of the shore, and she's like, I'm happy, and I'm holding the power. I'm happy, and I'm holding the power. Guys, great. Do you know what this feels like? And everybody's like, yeah.
We've been doing this the whole fucking time.
We're not the ones that have a block. And she's like, I don't either now.
That's probably my favorite part is when she's like, it's so short and I love it, but like there is that moment where she actually goes to Egwene and Avienda and she's just like, guys, this feels amazing. And they're all just like, and both of them are standing there being like, where have you been? Like, we've been able to do this for months.
It's like the only remaining virgin.
Yeah,
right? Like, guys, do you realize how amazing this feels? And everybody else is like, yeah, we've been doing this for months, if not years. He's like,
are you suggesting that Nynaeve was the 40-year-old virgin in this story?
I mean, I don't think she.
That would explain why she's so
like
all the time.
25-year-old virgin. To be fair, in a medieval type society, is a very old virgin.
You're right.
You're not wrong.
So, it doesn't matter that now she's She's going to live for a couple hundred years. Can't let those birthing hips go to waste.
That's right.
Even if she wasn't before, after that night, she definitely wasn't a virgin. Because remember, she gets married on a sea folk ship, which means that whoever's in charge in public is not in charge in the bedroom.
True.
That's right.
And I love how they describe that too, which again, they don't actually say anything about it till Path of Daggers, so I do apologize for this super minor spoiler. But I love how she tells them that, and then she's like, and Lan has never taken advantage of that, but just even fucking knowing he can is driving me nuts. And you're like, wow, okay, apparently nice guys always finish last. Like, they're not even wrong when they say that. Because even when Lan's just standing there being like, I could make you do whatever I wanted, but I'm not going to. Nynaeve's like, fuck you, Lan.
She wants it rough. She wants them to...
Apparently her and Fael need to sit down and have a conversation about how to make this happen.
She wants someone else to tug her brain. I got jokes.
Oh,
I like them. They're good.
And so, like, I love all the interactions down in Abu Dar.
Oh.
But I think one of the other that we haven't even touched on is Illian.
Oh, yeah.
And the conflict in Illian.
Yeah, you're right.
Oh, good lord.
Which I love.
There's so much build up.
It is. And I kind of feel I can feel conflicted on the resolution there, because on one hand it's a really cool thing because that's, and I realize I'm kind of jumping in the story here, but we're going to get there. We're going to fill you in, listeners. So just keep going. Plus, you're supposed to read the book before you listen to this anyway, so your fault. But that's the first time that Rand is officially crowned. He becomes a king. The king of Illian, and that's his first kingdom. And he takes it from Samael, who is like the jealous little brother of Luce Theron. And the reason I say I feel conflicted, because I think it's cool that Rand was crowned, but at the same time I feel like Samael escaping to meet his end elsewhere was a bit of a letdown. After we saw the battle between Rand and Ishamael, I was kind of hoping for a similar type scenario in Illian.
Yeah, I also have to admit that I was a little disappointed with Samael's death as well, because we don't actually even see it, technically.
No.
Like, there's literally, he just sprays balefire in Samael's direction, and then looks over and goes, okay, I'm pretty sure Samael's dead because there's no way he could have not gotten hit by that. And you're like, what kind of cop-out is that?
right?
I mean, to be fair, the only confirmation that we as the readers, the audience, whatever, get to confirm 100% that Samael is really dead is from Robert Jordan himself.
Yeah. We never even
Correct.
get that in the books.
Yeah, because it was a Winter's Heart book signing in chats. And he's like, yes, Samael is really dead. He was killed by Mashadar. He's really gone.
Yeah.
He's really dead. I swear.
Yeah.
And even then, I think most people were like, but is he though?
Yeah, no, and that's my favorite is the just like Chris Hemsworth Thor sitting on the fucking stairs talking to Hulk like
right.
but does he have to be though?
Is it
Because he's like the best Forsaken. Can we not have him die in like such a lame way?
Oh, yeah.
He went out like a bitch.
Like honestly, the saddest part about all of this is that again, super mini spoiler for all the way at the end.
Yeah.
Like honestly, like there's a small part of me that obviously I enjoy the way that it worked out.
Right.
Obviously the whole last battle is really dope. But like part of me really wanted that to happen and it just never did.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
He's just gone.
Because here's the thing, we already know by this point that what was it, Agenor and Bethamel, the two Forsaken that we first ever see in the series that the challenge ran at the Eye of the World.
Right.
And seems to just get destroyed. You know, I think it's which one was it, Bethamel or Agenor that basically tried to draw on so much of the power that they literally turned themselves into ash and then ran killed it.
Actually, Bethamel goes ahead and gets killed by the Green Man.
Oh yeah, that's right. Oh, that's right.
And then
That's right.
Agenor actually does get killed by Rand because he actually cuts off his source to the Dark One.
Mhm.
Yes.
And
then he
that
uses his
kind
blessing
of
and
destroys
protection.
him.
I thought one of them burned themselves out, like almost immediately, trying to fight Rand for the hold on Sidene.
That is definitely part of it. Don't get me wrong, and it's something that happens after they've been cut off.
Yeah, I was going to say,
because-
I think that was a result of Agenor losing his protection from the Dark One. So the Dark One gives protection to the Forsaken.
Oh
and it
yeah.
gives them, you know, you can channel more, you can, you know, you have whatever, more vitality, if you will. And then Agenor's like, I got this. Dark One, protect me. This sheep herder, this bull-headed sheep herder can't hurt me. And he ends
and
up
then immediately
goes out of
loses that
control.
protection.
Yeah.
And just
we know
kind
at
of
this
goes
point-
off the rails.
Well, we already know at this point in the series that those two have been reborn by Shaitan.
Yes.
They've been reborn as Arangar and Orangar, I believe. No, I'm probably saying
Arangar and Osengar.
there you go, Osengar.
Which is woman and man.
Yeah. There's so much I want to say about Osengar, but I can't because you don't know it at this point in the book. So if you have read this series and you've only read the series once, take what you know and fucking go back and reread because you will see so much shit that you want to talk about, but then you'll do a podcast episode on a book where you don't spoil beyond the book and you can't. I'm looking at a name in this fucking overview of one of these chapters, and I know who the bastard is, and I want to say it, and I fucking can't.
Right?
Because it will spoil it for anyone that has only finished A Crown of Swords.
Dude, honestly, like, as lame as it is in some ways to think about going ahead and going back and rereading something that you've already read, just given the fact that there is so many beautiful books out there and so much beautiful media and whatnot out there, and we only have like a set amount of time on this earth.
Yes.
The best gift that you can give yourself is rereading this series.
Oh yeah, just to put in perspective,
Yes.
anybody listening to this by now should have by far read The Eye of the World.
Oh, yeah.
Naebler
Oh, yeah.
as of today is the 2nd of July, 2 days ago. All right, so the 30th of June, Nameless uploaded a video called 12 Random Facts About the Eye of the World. All right, go and watch that if you don't believe there's a lot of shit you missed, because once you watch that, and after, and it's super easy to see. Not even you don't even have to finish the series, but you can see it looking back. Is that Rand channels throughout the entirety of the Eye of the World?
Oh yeah.
And after like seeing, like once you start learning what the effects has after people channel the first time, and you kind of get some hints about it right then and there, you learn. You know, you're like, oh shit, I can fucking see it.
Yeah.
Because channels, and then like 10 days later, he's super hyper and tries to fight White Cloaks. He channels again.
I think my favorite thing is finding that out at the end of the book.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Or actually, it's not even at the end of the book. It is after most of the events of like Rand's channeling. But literally, Moraine sits Nynaeve down and goes, "Hey, did this happen to you?" And you're like, whoa, wait, what?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's
literally everything you just described has been happening to Rand for the last Oh shit! Okay.
She talks to Nynaeve because Nynaeve sits in on one of the lessons that she's given Egwene because she doesn't want Egwene to be corrupted.
Yes.
And Moraine's like, you can do this shit too.
She's like,
just
okay.
I'm a cocky asshole to fucking listen and try to.
I'm just gonna teach you.
And my favorite thing is that Nynaeve like comes over to Moraine and she's like, "How dare you do this to this poor young woman?" And Moraine's like, "I didn't do shit. This also is happening to you." And she goes, "How dare you?"
She gets pissed
what
off.
Dirty accusation. And then she goes ahead and describes it, and Nynaeve was like, "Oh, fuck."
Well, and then she gets pissed
because Moraine's like,
when she suggests that Rand can channel as well. Nynaeve just gets pissed off in general, like at everything.
So
yeah, just all the time, always.
Okay, she's been right twice so far. There's no way she's right this third time. There's no way.
Listen here, okay.
Yeah, look, I know they say I said I can't lie, but this is an exception. She's not telling the truth. It's some kind of trick. It's like, how much more plain can you be?
Yeah.
The boy can channel.
Right?
But and there's also the key that actually I can't talk about it yet because it doesn't happen yet. there's a certain mess that gets cleaned later on in the series. And everything that you need to know to do it is actually laid out in the Eye of the World. Just go watch. There are spoilers all the way up through Winter's Heart in that video. So if you haven't watched if you haven't watched Winter's Heart, if you haven't read Winter's Heart, or at least listen to the whole audiobook, don't go and watch it. You will be spoiled. But after Winter's Heart, go and just fucking have your mind blown. You know that meme where it's like the dude from like, what is it, the Eric and Andre show is just like like that. Because some of the stuff, even then, I was like, oh yeah, I knew that, but I had forgotten thinking about other things. But that's all the motivation you need, because that's only a small drop in the bucket of things that are laid out earlier that you don't realize until later. And some of it you won't even realize on your first read through. I know a lot of it I didn't, and then I started going back through again, and I'm like, motherfucker.
It's one of those series. So I started reading, actually, when the next book comes out, Path of Daggers. And I read through Path of Daggers, and I was like super stoked for the next one. And then, as so many people tell the story when they started the series, when it was still being created, you'd read through it, and then you'd wait for a year, and then you'd go, shit, what happened? I can't remember. And then you'd have to reread. Either you'd reread all the way through, or you'd reread the last book just to kind of catch you up. So as a result, you read like the first 2 or 3 or 4 books like 5 or 6 times, and then the last 3 books you've read once. Or at least that's how it is for me.
Yeah,
and so I'm really looking forward to doing a reread, which I'm trying to make a commitment to restart in the next.
Oh yeah,
it'll happen. But what I want to do is I want to index everything, and I want to say, okay, this character, when did they show up last, and this event happened there, and I really just want to try and do a conspiracy theory type thread poster on my wall and just try and see how everything connects.
Oh yeah, like here's
please,
Here's
once you're done with that, just post a picture of the "It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia" like meme moment of just like,
Oh my god, this is where the stuff happens.
in the mailroom.
so
yes.
So like another one of those moments is you remember the Wanderer that Rand encounters in Shatter Logoth when he falls through the stadium floor and this hand grabs him. It's like basically he's just like, "You're lucky that I don't want to see you dead today, and I'm not going to kill."
Oh, you mean Warden?
I mean, I don't know if that's really revealed. I mean, it's pretty
It
easy
is.
to put together. Oh, okay. I didn't know if it was.
I mean, sorry. Okay, I shouldn't say that. It is technically revealed because, of course, in the book, Moradin is not hiding his face.
Yeah.
He is not illusioned as someone else. And so technically, I guess, while you are reading the book, you don't necessarily know that it's him.
No, for sure.
But
you
like
can-
at the
you can really
same
puzzle it out.
time, you can absolutely puzzle it out. And of course, this is definitely one of those moments where in the show, for example, when they get to this point, it will be incredibly obvious who that Wanderer is. Because he will literally just show up and be like, okay, cool. So this looks exactly like Morgan.
Hey, I know that guy.
I mean, and then Rand's like, he could have disappeared. He could have made a gateway, but I didn't feel anything. Oh, and I didn't feel anything at the balefire either. What's one thing that another source of magic that can be used that normal channelers can't detect
Hey, what's
and feel?
that black dot in your eye?
There's all that dirt in your eye. Why is it moving around? Can you
a
even
black dot, or are you just happy
That's
to see me?
both?
Oh, snarl.
Yep.
So, but I think
man.
we also see a big development for Rand, and he's preparing to use Balefire on Samael because Samael is distracted by Mashadar, and he's like, I can guaranteed kill the Forsaken. And it's like the opposite of the scene with Lanfear Moraine. His inaction made something bad happen. But now Rand's not afraid to act, but he acts in the dumb way. Instead of going ahead and ensuring that the goddamn Forsaken is killed, he balefires Leah because she's captured by Mashadar. But then when he looks back, it's full of Mashadar, and he's like, well, he must be dead anyway, so I guess it worked out. It's like, you dense motherfucker.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, you finally mustered up the courage to do the humane thing and kill the woman so she doesn't have to deal with being consumed by Mashadar at the risk of letting a Forsaken go.
Well, and of course, okay, to be fair, or not to be fair, the other part of that particular thing is, what if he had just done it the other way around? Like, that's my favorite part, is the fact that if he had just been like, okay, cool, I'm going to get to Leah in just a moment, because thinking about this logically, which one of them is trying to get away the most? And which one of them is more dangerous? If I just go ahead and shoot Balefire at Samael, and then swing it towards Leah...
Hey, don't.
Like, that's just the smarter thing to do. Like, what are you doing, Rick?
Like, it literally moves as fast as you turn your hand.
Stop applying logic, guys. Just stop. Rand isn't that smart yet. And frankly...
Well, and of course, again, that is one of the things that I really, really appreciate about these books, is that in almost every case, Jordan justifies stupidity. And so it never actually feels like the person is just doing the stupid thing to forward the plot or to make conflict. They are doing the stupid thing because they think it's the right thing to do.
I mean, they're in the shit.
It just also ends up going ahead and forwarding the plot and making conflict.
And it really kind of makes a breaking point, because doesn't Rand add Leah to his list of people who died in his name? And yeah.
Oh, she's already on there.
Which, that's... I couldn't remember if he started that in this one or not. I think he did. But, that kind of illustrates where his head's at. He's more concerned with protecting, especially women at this point in time, because he's still got his Two Rivers in what's
patriarchal,
chivalry. That's the word I was
chivalrous
thinking of.
nature.
And of course, Fire Dare Mine, they're all incredibly insulted by the idea of chivalry. But he's still sort of motivated. He's still that farm boy. Like, he's still the dumb, wool-headed sheep herder who left Emmons Field just like a year ago. And regardless of what he's been through, like, he still has that piece of himself. And I think that, yes, it's stupid. And yes, he's stupid. But I think it still shows that, just because you find out a terrible truth about yourself or a terrifying factoid about yourself, it doesn't instantly change who you are or what you do in those moments that matter. And though it's completely unsatisfying that Samael just, for all intents and purposes, gets away, I do think it's a really great illustration. And then how that affects Rand down the line is just it's just a really powerful moment. So that's why I say I'm conflicted on that, because that whole conflict was great, but at the same time, it's like, it seems to be unsatisfying unless you're willing to fanboy and dig a little deeper. Or fangirl, fan person.
Well, and actually, this is something that we talked about a little bit last book during the book review during Dumai's Wells, as far as what is the Rand that comes out of the box. And we definitely see a change. He is absolutely, without a doubt, harder and angrier and more erratic once he comes out of the box. But at the same time, I do really appreciate these moments where, again, even though it's unsatisfying as far as Samael's death, it is satisfying that Jordan is so well-versed in human beings that he actually can write them to the degree where they feel so accurate and realistic that, again, it goes back to who are you at the core of your being. And at the core of Rand's being, he is a chivalrous sheep herder from the Two Rivers. And that is what he will be forever. And granted, that changes and that morphs and that, as he is thinking clearly and as he's doing other things, he does get over who he began as and changes throughout the books. But at his core, he is a good person who wants to save other people.
He goes through a real journey, and I think that's one of the things that makes Rand, specifically in this case, just a really powerful character.
Oh yeah, I mean he's so good at writing characters that pull you in, because one of the other characters that has a fairly decent appearance or presence, I guess, there you go, in A Crown of Swords is the Ashaman Dashiva.
Oh,
and he is this. He's so ditzy. I mean, we know we know from Perrin smelling a wide array of emotions coming from that he's clearly mad. He's insane from the power. But
he's saying insane remembering.
Yeah. But instead of being that violent, destructive, unreliable kind of insane, he's that kind of like ditzy, like Luna Lovegood from Harry Potter kind of ditzy.
Yes.
Yeah.
That makes you kind of love the character.
Yep. I have never thought about that comparison between those two characters. And yet, that is now the only thing I am ever going to see as I'm reading chapters that include Dashiva.
Oh, yeah. You can see Dashiva just now. Just must have been Nargles.
Hey
Rand,
Rand.
what the fuck is a Nargle?
Hey Rand, have you read this week's issue of the Quibbler?
Rand,
Dude,
What,
does she
what
shut the
house
fuck
are you
up?
in the Black Tower?
Dude.
Oh, boy.
Honestly, I mean, like, I always knew that these were going to be things that happened in the Wheel of Time and whatnot, but, like, obviously everybody who's a super nerd already knows their Hogwarts house, but can you imagine what it's going to do to
Oh,
people
yeah.
when we find out what house they're in and
Do you
what
think
Aja they're in?
DragonMount.com is going to
Because
have
holy
a
fuck.
what Aja are you quiz like Pottermore?
To be fair, I can almost guarantee that they will have something like that. Now, granted, it's not going to be nearly as extensive as Pottermore, just because, again, the very unfortunate and sad fact that Robert Jordan can't go ahead and add sort of new content, if you will, personally to the fandom and whatnot. Yet, J.K. Rowling is very capable of doing that. There will absolutely be plenty of things that get added to, Dragon Mount or other fan sites and whatnot that are very akin to Pottermore. I don't think it'll ever actually get quite as deep unless, Harriet, for example, wants to go ahead and take that on, or Brandon Sanderson goes ahead and takes that on. But I think that given that Robert Jordan isn't around to do it, I think that it would be a little bit of a, not in bad taste, but along those lines of like going ahead and messing with or adding too much additional content to the Wheel of Time.
DLC.
Yeah. All right, calm down, EA. We don't need you in here.
So, final thoughts on A Crown of Swords, because we've talked about basically everything I believe that I can think of, especially of significance from the book.
I'll take it. I'll go first. I think it's a good book. I think, the metaphor I used in the pre-show was, if this was an anime cartoon, it would be a bit of a filler episode. But that's not entirely accurate because, like I said, we do have these really great scenes. Nynaeve versus Mogedion and the revealing of Moradin, and just there's a lot of really great moments in this book that I can't recommend it enough. I love it. It's just another layer of flavors that makes the Wheel of Time turn, and I love it.
Agreed. My final thought is definitely, again, I know that we're sort of going through this the first time, quote unquote, but definitely, as I said before, you are doing yourself a disservice by not reading this book series more than once, because as you already said, I'd probably read A Crown of Swords maybe 3 or 4 times, just in the releasing of the other books. But going back and having actually read it, I think the most recent time that I read it was the first time I had read it after the entire series was out, and after I actually finished the whole thing. You really get so much out of these books that you never noticed the first time or even the 5th time, because this book is such a building block. As you said, it's a filler episode in so many ways, but that filler is foundation. And the reread that you get and the things that you get out of out of rereading it more than once are so solid that this book is just seems very boring the first time you read it and seems very cool the next time you read it once you actually know the ending. It's great.
Yeah, this is one of the books that makes me honestly believe that Robert Jordan, when he laid out his timetable of the series and all the books that he got to write, and his intention for the books that Brandon Sanderson wound up finishing for the series, was that the series was never intended to be a read it once, understand everything, and put it down. It can't be. It's impossible. You cannot read through the series one time and make every connection unless you are sitting there taking such intricate details that you might as well read the book again, going through your notes. It's impossible. And books like this, I think Dumai's Wells, for me, is a big culmination of action, character development, and where a lot of stressors come to a head. So whenever we finish with chapter 55, I just blinked. What did I just blink? I might edit that out. So when we get to chapter 55 of Lord of Chaos, and we finish with Dumai's Wells, the reader is kind of left with this cliffhanger at the end of this massive battle. We see this kind of almost relieving development of Rand, because it's been building to this point for so long, but this absolutely horrible, disturbing development with Rand that it leaves you kind of at that cliffhanger in the book where you're like, okay, this guy is supposed to be the fucking hero. How? Like that's not what heroes do. All right, Thor would not be approving that. All right, his meme would not be at the bottom of the scene. You know? But
join us next time to find out if Rand could lift Mjolnir.
I know, right? So
he doesn't need to. He has Kalendor.
Yeah, that's true.
Join us next time to find out if Thor could pick up Kalendor.
I don't think he wants to try to do that right now. Kalendor is very much untouchable at the moment. I promise you that one. But so for me, A Crown of Swords brings us into this kind of restful kind of arc where there's still important things that happen. There's still action. There's still excitement. There's still a lot of very important things that happen. Nynaeve finally losing her block, or being able to get rid of her block, is incredibly important. Not going to be specific, but within the next 2 to 3 books.
Oh yeah, very important.
The appearance of certain characters are incredibly important for the remainder of the series. This book does so much laying the groundwork, of laying more world building. It's almost like books 1 through 6 is the end of like the MCU phase 1.
Yes.
And then book 7, A Crown of Swords, starts phase 2. And you kind of have to go, after such a big culmination of action, you kind of have to have that build up, because the Eye of the World wasn't super exciting. The Great Hunt wasn't super exciting, but every book that came through got more and more exciting, and it culminated in Dumai's Wells. Right. And for me, the same thing happens. There's a longer build up here. It wouldn't be as long, because I think the book series was initially meant to be 12 books long.
Yeah.
Yes.
Brandon Sanderson ended up
decision.
Yeah. Because to be fair, I think that he actually did an incredibly good job carrying on the legacy and doing whatever, but it did actually take him a little bit to find his footing. Yeah. And so if he had actually only done it in 2 books, I don't think I would have been nearly as happy with the actual books that were made.
I agree.
It took him a second, and it was a good call to go ahead and find his feet.
Mm-hmm. But for what I was getting at is, for Robert Jordan's original vision of this being a 12-book series, this literally being right after the halfway point of the series, would be a similar kind of build-up to action as we would have seen in the first half of the series. And it's symmetrical, it makes sense, it flows. I'm glad that it didn't wind up happening. Well, it does, but it's just drawn out over more books, which I think makes the culmination in books 12 through 14 all the much better.
Yes.
But it's one of those things that The Crown of Swords is what eases you from the action of Dumai's Wells into the slog of Path of Daggers, Winter's Heart, Crossroads of Twilight, and Knife of Dreams. It's like after you get done working out and then you stretch and do breathing to calm back down, so you're not like all freaking just roided out. I don't know, but
Wait, you're supposed to stretch and breathe after you work out?
what they say.
Shoot, I've been doing it wrong this whole time.
All
But-
this time.
I mean,
Is
just
that why I always hate exercising?
probably.
See, Robert Jordan knew things that I didn't, which is why he's the writer and I'm the reader.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah. But I mean, you got to look at the important things, the majorly important things that happen in this book. With the Shan invasion of Ebu Dar, the finding of the Bowl of Winds, the things that
Big
seem as
things.
small, huh?
Big things.
Yeah.
Mm.
Then even things that may be smaller, like finding out that the Foxhead Medallion burns the shit out of Gollum.
Yeah.
To Mogideon being subjected to the mind trap, to learning more about Shadar Haran. There's all the way to Rand becoming coming to rule his first true kingdom and being crowned the ruler and king of Illian. There's just so much that builds, and it lays the groundwork for so many more things to happen because, once again, we find Rand in places that become incredibly important within the next 2 to 3 books.
Right.
There's certain places that come up over and over and over again for good reason.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those that, yeah, it's a little slow.
But it's so worth it.
It's worth it. It's worth it. I mean, and the same is true with the entire slog of the series.
Yes.
It's just, you got to push through it. Just like how a lot of people had to push through the Eye of the World, you got to do the same with the rest of the series because it's building to an even better culmination. Barely better, but a better culmination than Demise Wells.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Well, and it's always interesting because I think that this book in particular, because of course, obviously, if you don't actually give sort of the entire first book in a series a chance, then you're doing yourself a disservice because there are so many series where the author was very new when they wrote the first book, or whatever it was that was the first book in a series, and this one is no stranger to that. The Eye of the World is a little hard to get through, but the payoff is amazing. And these books, The Slog and starting with A Crown of Swords, is really one of the reasons that I give so many other series such a chance to impress me.
Right.
Because if I had gotten to A Crown of Swords and just tossed the Wheel of Time aside because I was done with it and was like, oh, Dumai's Wells is over and it's not giving me anything like that again, then I cannot imagine where I would be now in terms of just not actually having been exposed to the whole rest of the Wheel of Time. And so it has definitely taught me something about books and film series and television series and whatnot, which is even when it gets tough, if it captured you at any point, keep going. Because with the exception of like the very last season of a number of television shows, they're so worth it.
Agreed.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So, this concludes our book review of A Crown of Swords. I know for me it feels like it because we literally did just get done with the last book review, with Lord of Chaos. But after this episode airs this coming Friday on the 5th, we will be resuming with part 2 of our Great Captain series.
What would?
Oh yeah, it's gonna be dope. And so we'll get part 2, 3, and 4 done, and then we'll be doing the Path of Daggers book review, and then we'll get to part 5 of the Great Captain series, and then we'll see where we're gonna go from there. I think we got a couple things coming up in the future that you guys are gonna love. Speaking of things coming up in the future, if you are one of those that have listened to this podcast almost as soon as it comes out, I'm going to say before 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on July 5th, 2019. We're going to be doing something then. Daniel, what are we going to be doing?
So we are going to be broadcasting live in a special Black Tower podcast episode for a couple of hours from 8 to 10. And you are more than welcome to join us for that. You'll actually be able to see us do some stuff, which should be a good time instead of just hearing our voices. And we'll have some fun and some laughs and some good times that'll be had by all. And hopefully you'll join us for that. Don't want to give anything away too much because I know that we have some fun stuff planned that is intended to be surprises for those of you who tune in. But I hope to see at least a few of you there, and preferably a bunch of you. I think it would be fun to spend the time with you guys and enjoy the company.
Yeah, and the thing to remember is since it will be a live broadcast, and this is, of course is going to be on YouTube, you will be able to chat with us.
Correct. Yes.
So for those of you that are familiar with Twitch or other YouTube live broadcasts, it's going to be the same thing on YouTube. And we'll be able to see what you're saying and chat with you. And, we might even, if we want to, set up a Discord channel for it. And if there's a way, there's no promises, we might, if we can somehow be in a Discord chat at the same time as doing the live broadcast on YouTube, we might try to do that as well so that those of you that can't get to YouTube but can listen on Discord can listen there. No guarantees. We got to play around with it, see if it'll work or not.
Yeah.
Because most computers don't like trying to split audio outputs or inputs to multiple sources or destinations, whatever you want to call it.
Indeed.
So, but yeah, not without a soundboard.
Indeed.
Or technology. And I am not reloading Voice Meter Banana ever again on my computer.
But yeah, definitely come out and join us. And, definitely this will be a chance where if you have been annoyed with the pronunciation of any of our things, you can call us out on that and we'll try to fix them. As well as, if you have any points that you've held on to from listening to the podcast that you have not let us know over the email or over Twitter or anything like that, which, to be fair, I don't think a whole lot of you hold back, which is great. We like that. Yes. But if you've been holding back, come join us and tell us, what we're doing well, what you'd like to see, all of that good stuff. Because at the end of the day, we have a lot of fun with this podcast, but it is absolutely for you guys. Us just talking to each other, we could do that on the phone if we, just wanted to go ahead and discuss Wheel of Time. So we do this absolutely for you guys at the end of the day, and it is way more fun if and when you guys want to get involved and let us know different things, because, plenty of people on Twitter and in this community and such have blown our minds before, and we would love to have that keep happening.
Now, last week's episode, we did do wasn't really an obscure movie quote, but it was a movie quote, and no one has tweeted that back out to us yet. I don't know if nobody could just get it or nobody's gotten to it or whatever the case is, or if it's just something that nobody's really enjoying, but we're still going to do it anyway because it's fun for us. So for this one, it's a bit of a more recent movie than last week's. This movie was released in 2014. There's your hint. And the quote is, "Martini, gin, not vodka, obviously, stirred for 10 seconds while glancing at an unopened bottle of vermouth." So if you can guess what that is, another hint, that is not any of the 007 movies. And I'm only saying that because if you say 007, I will be grossly insulted.
As you should be.
Yes.
So, but if you want to reach out to us before the live stream or after the live stream, you can find us on Twitter at Tower Podcast. You can email us at blacktowerpod@gmail.com. And as always, you can go to blacktowerpod.podbean.com, which is our hosting site. And there are links on the left-hand side if you're on desktop, or you can click the little 3-line menu icon on the top left if you're on mobile or tablet or whatever have you. And there'll be links there to Facebook, Discord, Patreon, whatever have you. I will say on the Patreon thing, I know I keep saying we have it, but I don't really ever plug access to it because I don't like trying to make anyone feel like they should pay for it or whatever. But it is greatly appreciated. But today's pre-recording was actually pretty fucking hilarious.
It really was.
I think after editing, it's going to be close to an hour long, so it's almost like a whole episode extra of bonus material that if you guys want to come and listen to, definitely go head over to Patreon. You do have to be a supporter at the dedicated tier or Ashaman tier. Dedicated is $5 a month. Ashaman is $10 a month. And of course, as soon as you subscribe to it, you should go ahead and get access to all of that. So I won't even be upset if you do it for 1 month just to listen to that and then you don't. I won't be upset if you don't do it either way, but I don't think any of us will. But it's out there for those of you that want to and are kind enough to go the extra mile to help support us here at the Black Tower Podcast.
Indeed. And thank you, just in case we haven't actually said it out loud, thank you very much to all of you who are already on that, because you are absolutely, without a doubt, appreciated for everything that you are already doing.
Yeah, I think we have 3 Patreons right now.
Sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you are dope, just
yeah.
in general.
We have Sunmi, which I remember is a Bookworm 200. I believe it's 200. Bookworm 200 should be. I'm trying to find his name again to make sure I'm not. Yep, Bookworm 200. Making sure I wasn't remembering wrong. Then we also have Matthew, and we have Connor. So you guys are awesome.
Indeed. Yes,
So.
thank you very much.
Yeah, and we have had some others in the past, but yeah. But you guys are awesome. We really appreciate it, and all of your support is definitely going towards maintaining the hosting services for the podcast as best as we can, which so far isn't proven to be a problem.
Yep.
But the more support we get, the more likely we are to be able to come and more of us or all of us be able to go to different cons, conventions, do meetups, do different events.
Agreed.
And the like. But I think that is enough of trying to sell ourselves on people giving us all the monies.
Yes, indeed. So for everyone here at the Black Tower Podcast, I have been Daniel.
I've been Andrew.
And I have been Josh.
And we want to definitely thank you for joining us this week for our episode. Definitely hope to see you this coming Friday for our live event and next week for the next exciting episode of the Black Tower Podcast.
Y'all take care now. Come on back now, you hear? I'm going to edit that out. That's stupid.